significant price increases we've seen for precious metals?
Don't take much message macroeconomically. The argument can be made that we're losing credibility or something. It's simply not the case. If you look at where inflation expectations are, our credibility is right where it needs to be. So we look at those things. We don't get spun up over particular asset price changes, although we do monitor them, of course.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
Something unprecedented is happening in global finance. For the first time since 1996, central banks around the world are holding more gold than U.S. Treasury bonds. Gold has crossed $5,000 per ounce, nearly tripling over the past 5 years as countries scramble to buy physical metal. While this is happening, BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF has accumulated 784,000 Bitcoin worth $69 billion, becoming the fastest growing ETF in financial history. Now I know what this sounds like. I'm about to give you the Bitcoin Kool-Aid, and honestly, that's exactly what I'm doing. But I'm going to make a case based on technology, not Lambo bro, get rich quick hype. Gold has worked for 5,000 years because it's scarce and durable. But it's fundamentally analog technology. It's heavy, difficult to transport across borders, and incompatible with our increasingly digital economy. Gold is to money what handwritten letters are to communication. It works, but there's something objectively better. What I want to show you is why the pivot away from US debt isn't going back to gold, but forward to Bitcoin.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Well, we're going, we don't need roads.
Countries are losing faith in the dollar system, and this isn't based on conspiracy theories, it's based on mathematics. When you're printing trillions of dollars every year to cover deficits, smart money pays attention and starts looking for alternatives. So what are they doing? They're buying massive amounts of gold. In 2025 alone, central banks purchased around 850 tons of gold. China, Russia, India, Poland, Turkey, all of them are aggressively accumulating physical metal, and projections show they'll buy another 755 tons in 2026. This represents a fundamental shift in how the world stores value. For nearly 3 decades, since 1996, central banks held more U.S. Treasury bonds than gold. That era is over. They now hold more gold than treasuries for the first time in a generation. The price action reflects this shift. In 2020, gold was trading around $1,800 per ounce. Today, as of January 29th, 2026, gold just broke through $5,000 per ounce. That represents a 178% increase in just 5 years. The metal has nearly tripled in value. Why are they choosing gold? Because it has a 5,000-year track record. Empires have risen and fallen, currencies have been created and destroyed, but gold has remained valuable throughout human history. It's genuinely scarce, physically durable, and governments can't simply print more of it when they need funding. The pivot to gold makes perfect sense if your frame of reference is the 20th century, but we don't live there anymore. We live in the digital world, where information can travel around the globe instantly. Here's the uncomfortable reality about gold. It's a 5,000-year-old technology trying to operate in 2026. Let's talk about what it actually takes to move significant wealth in gold. If you wanted to transport $1 million worth of gold, you're looking at approximately 15 standard gold bars. Each bar weighs about 27 pounds, which means you're dealing with over 400 pounds of metal. Now imagine trying to move that across an international border. You need armored transportation, comprehensive insurance, security personnel, customs documentation, and secure storage facilities on both ends of the journey. The process takes days or weeks, and the costs run into the thousands of dollars. Think about this analogy. Imagine if I told you that the best way to communicate in 2026 is to write a handwritten letter, place it in an envelope, mail it through the postal system, and wait 5 days for it to arrive. You would think I was completely out of touch with reality because email exists, text messages exist, and video calls exist. That's exactly what gold is in the context of money. It is the handwritten letter of financial systems. Gold cannot be easily divided into precise amounts. You can't instantly send someone exactly $50 worth of gold. You can't program it to execute complex financial arrangements. You can't secure it with cryptography or multi-signature requirements. It simply exists as a physical object, heavy, analog, and increasingly incompatible with how the world actually operates. Let me show you why Bitcoin is superior to gold on every practical level that matters. Divisibility. With gold, you can cut it into large chunks, but getting exact amounts is complicated and expensive. You need to melt it down, measure it precisely, and verify purity at each step. Bitcoin can be divided into 100 million units, which means you can send any precise amount you need, whether that's $3 or $3 million with perfect accuracy. Portability. Moving $1 million in gold means physically transporting 400 pounds of metal across borders. You need security, insurance, customs clearance, and the entire process takes days or weeks. Moving the same amount in Bitcoin takes about 10 minutes from your phone and costs roughly $10 in transaction fees. That's not a small improvement, it's a complete transformation in how value moves. When you receive gold, you need experts and specialized equipment to verify it's authentic and measure its purity. You're trusting third parties at every step. With Bitcoin, every transaction is recorded on a public blockchain that anyone can verify instantly from their own computer. The verification is mathematical and doesn't require trusting any third parties. Security and storage. Gold needs physical storage. Vaults, security guards, insurance policies, that cost money every single year. If someone knows where your gold is located, they can potentially seize it. History shows us that this has happened before. Bitcoin can be secured with a simple recovery phrase you memorize. You can carry millions of dollars in value across any border without anyone knowing, and it costs nothing to store. Functionality. Gold sits in storage. That's all it does. Bitcoin is programmable money. You can create multi-signature wallets that require multiple people to approve transactions. You can set up automated payment schedules. You can build trust funds that unlock at specific dates or conditions. None of this is remotely possible with physical metal. Supply control. We mine roughly 2% more gold every year, and if prices rise high enough, mining operations expand and the supply increases even faster. The total gold supply keeps growing indefinitely. Bitcoin has a hard cap of only 21 million Bitcoins, permanently written into the protocol. No government, no company, no miner can ever change that fundamental rule. When you compare them as technologies for storing and moving value in a modern economy, Bitcoin offers clear, measurable advantages in every category that actually matters. I understand how this sounds. It sounds like I'm part of some kind of movement trying to convince you of something radical. But let me show you how major technological transitions have actually played out throughout history. In the year 1900, only 4% of factories in the United States use electricity. Everyone said it was an expensive novelty that would never replace reliable steam engines. The old technology worked fine, the infrastructure was already built, and changing seemed unnecessary and risky. 30 years later, 75% of factories were electrified. What happened? People realized that electricity wasn't just marginally better, it was fundamentally superior. It was more efficient, more flexible, and more powerful. The factories that refused to adapt didn't survive. This same pattern repeated with the internet. In 1995, people genuinely asked why they would need email when they had perfectly functional phones and fax machines. By 2010, if your business didn't have a website and email, you essentially didn't exist in the marketplace. We've seen this with smartphones, streaming services, digital photography, and countless other technologies. Every major technological shift follows the same pattern. First, people ignore it, then they ridicule it, then they fight against it, and finally, everyone uses it because the advantages become undeniable. We're still in the early stages of this transition with Bitcoin, but institutional adoption is already accelerating rapidly. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF, IBIT, launched on January 11th, 2024, and Bloomberg called it the greatest launch in exchange-traded fund history. As of January 2026, IBIT holds over 784,000 Bitcoin worth more than $69 billion. That represents 3.7% of Bitcoin's entire supply. The fund pulled in $21.8 billion in net inflows just in 2025 alone, and Larry Fink, BlackRock CEO, called it the fastest growing ETF in the history of ETFs. It controls roughly 70% of the Bitcoin ETF market by volume.
Well, I was a skeptic. Yes. I was a proud skeptic. Yes. And I studied it, learned about it, and I came away saying, okay, my opinion 5 years ago was wrong. Here's my opinion today. This is what I believe in today. I believe the opportunity today. I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, debasing their currency by excess deficits, and some countries are. I'm a major believer that there is a role for Bitcoin in portfolios. I believe you're going to see that as one of the asset classes that we all look at. I look at it as digital gold, as I said before, and I do believe there's a real need for everyone to look at it as one alternative. And I believe there's a great industrial use for it, and I think a lot of people are missing that.
This isn't just about investment funds. Over 160 public companies now hold Bitcoin on their corporate balance sheets. Companies like Strategy, Strive, Metaplanet, Marathon Digital, and Tesla collectively hold well over 1 million Bitcoin. That's roughly 6% of the total supply that will ever exist. Even sovereign nations are accumulating Bitcoin. The United States has created a strategic Bitcoin reserve holding over 325,000 Bitcoin. This isn't a fringe movement anymore. The world's largest asset manager, hundreds of public corporations, and sovereign nations are actively accumulating Bitcoin. The pivot has already started. It's just happening gradually, which is exactly how these major transitions work in the real world. Here's the fundamental reason why Bitcoin will ultimately win this competition. We live in a digital world now, and that world is only becoming more digital with time. Your money is already digital. Your bank account is just numbers in a database. Your paycheck gets deposited electronically. You pay your bills online. You send money through apps. The physical aspect of money has already disappeared for most practical purposes. But all of that digital money is controlled by centralized institutions, banks, governments, and payment processors. They can freeze your account, they can block your transactions, they can inflate the money supply. You're operating in a digital system, but you don't actually control your own money. Bitcoin is fundamentally different because it's digital money that's also decentralized. No single government controls it, no central bank can print more of it, no payment processor can shut it down. It operates 24/7 across every border without requiring anyone's permission. Now here's something most people haven't considered yet, but it's critically important. We're rapidly entering the age of artificial intelligence and autonomous systems. Artificial intelligence cannot send gold to other AI systems. AI cannot hold physical gold bars. AI cannot verify gold purity without human intermediaries. AI cannot transport gold across physical borders. Gold exists entirely in the physical world, while AI exists entirely in the digital realm. But Bitcoin? AI has absolutely no problem using Bitcoin. It's native digital money that AI agents can hold in wallets, verify on the blockchain instantly, and send to each other in seconds. They can operate continuously across any geographic boundary without human intervention. As AI becomes more deeply integrated into our economy, and it absolutely will, the need for money that AI can actually use becomes increasingly important. Gold simply cannot fill that role. Gold has the right fundamental properties. It's scarce, durable, and has proven itself over millennia. But it has the wrong application for the modern world, and it has no application whatsoever for an AI-driven future. Bitcoin has those same fundamental properties of scarcity and durability, but with a 21st century application, and more importantly, it has a 22nd century application. This is why capital will eventually flow from gold to Bitcoin. Not because gold is bad, gold is genuinely excellent for what it is, but because Bitcoin does everything gold does, plus 1,000 things gold cannot possibly do. We're still very early in this process. Most people don't fully understand inflation. Most people certainly don't understand Bitcoin. Most institutions are still skeptical or just beginning to explore it. Most governments are still trying to figure out how to approach regulation. That's exactly where the internet was in 1995. That's exactly where electricity was in 1905. The transition takes time, but the direction becomes clear when you understand the underlying technology. Let me bring this all together and be completely clear about what's happening. The pivot away from US sovereign debt has already begun. Central banks are buying gold instead of treasury bonds, and this isn't a prediction, it's current policy happening right now. But gold is the intermediate step in this transition. It's a bridge from the old system to the new one. Gold has the right fundamentals, scarcity, durability, proven history, but it's built on outdated technology that doesn't fit our digital economy. Bitcoin is digital, programmable, and perfectly scarce money. It's superior to gold in every technical aspect that matters for how we actually move and store value today. The people who understand this early will benefit the most, not because Bitcoin is magic, but because it's superior technology being adopted in an increasingly digital world. Gold has worked brilliantly for 5,000 years, and Bitcoin will work for the next 5,000, but only one of them can move at the speed of the internet and integrate with the technologies that are shaping our future. The shift from analog to digital money is inevitable. The only real question is how long the transition will take. And based on every major technological shift in history, it happens faster than most people expect. If this changed how you think about money and the future of technology, hit that subscribe button. I'm breaking down the biggest economic shifts happening in real time. No hype, just facts and logical analysis. The world is changing faster than most people realize. Don't get left behind using handwritten letters while everyone else has moved on to email. Thank you.